Welcome to The Bottom Line. I'm Pastor Rick Utze from Maranatha in Plain City, Ohio. You know, there's a beautiful place out west. There's Zion National Park. And, you know, I'd love to go out west and look at the beauty of these national parks. But this past week, there was a couple that was in the park hiking. And they got themselves in trouble because the woman slipped and got herself in some quicksand. And you normally, from what I hear, you wouldn't expect quicksand at that park because it just usually doesn't happen. But they've been so wet that the water in the sand, right, there was so much water in it that it became quicksand. And so in the process of getting her out of the quicksand, the guy sunk up to it, just up to his knee in doing that, and they couldn't get him out. I mean, like his leg was stuck in the quicksand. And, you know, what do you do? There's no cell service. Like, they're in the middle of nowhere. It was a 3-hour hike into where they were. Kind of reminds you of Gilligan's Island, a 3-hour tour. But anyways, I digress. So they're there. So she has to go and walk out and kind of backtrack to try and get to a place where she has cell service so she can call for help. And she actually managed several hours later to make a call. They found her. They took a helicopter in, dropped someone down. It took them 2 hours to get him out of quicksand that was up to his knee. It was in freezing cold water. The guy was afraid he was going to die of hypothermia. He thought he would lose his leg. It turns out that, you know, they got him out. They had to stay overnight because of a snowstorm. But they built a fire, got him warmed up, got him back. He had a, inflamed leg, but I think he's going to be okay. And so that all worked out fine, right? But the point is, there was something there that they couldn't see. It was a trap. It ensnared them. And in our sermon series on redemption, we're now in Genesis 3. We're going to start that this week. And it just reminded me of that, of how Satan sets a snare. And it says in Genesis 3, now the serpent was the most cunning of all the wild animals that the Lord had made. He said to the woman, did God really say you can't eat from the tree in the garden? And so he's going to the woman and expressing doubt about what God said, like getting her to question her trust in the goodness of God. And, he went on and told him, you're not surely going to die, basically calling God a liar, right? And here is where, if you know the story, you know that Eve took of the fruit and ate it and gave it to Adam and he ate it. But I'm telling you, the sin started before they actually ate the fruit, before they took a bite. It was in their hearts. Because I want you to listen to verse 6. It says, the woman saw that the tree was good for food and delightful to look at, that it was desirable for obtaining wisdom. So she saw that it was good, it was delightful and desirable. And so those are the things that get us, right? Satan is really, now we know Satan's powerful. You can read in Job, you can read in Revelations, he's got power. But for the most part, where Satan's real power lies is in your desires. He's not any more powerful than the desires you have right in your heart. That's where he went with Eve. She saw, she desired, she lusted after, she distrusted God. Her treasure all of a sudden was in her wisdom and not what God said was right and wrong. And that's how Satan attacks us. That's how he ensnares us. And here's the good news about all this. They were in the most beautiful spot. You talk about the couple that was in the national park, Zion National Park in Utah. They were in the Garden of Eden, right? They were in the most beautiful place God had created, where God put them, right? It was all good. And after they ate, it turned from a blessing to a curse. And that's where the corruption came in. But I don't want to leave you on a bad note. I want to leave you with this. And that even in all that, even when they ran and they hid and they blamed each other, they were not out of God's reach. God pursued them. God provided a way for them to come back to him. And that's the beautiful part, right? Redemption. Even in the fall, God had provided a way long before them through Jesus Christ. Hey, think about Jesus. How was he tempted by the devil? Wasn't it through his desires? And wasn't it through worship, his treasure? And Jesus never failed. Jesus resisted the temptation in those desires. He had pure desire for the will of his Father in heaven. And so Jesus Christ was able to go to the cross, his mission, and die for us to save us. And so that's the bottom line, right? If Adam and Eve could sin in a beautiful place and be entrapped, certainly we can too in the corrupt world that we live in today. And so I want us to keep our eyes on Jesus, and I want us to understand that we're entrapped long before we actually commit an act of sin. It's when he gets to our desires and we doubt God's goodness. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time on The Bottom Line.